right, now we're live.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning. This is Matt Rodriguez along here with Frank Lopez. We're on Tacobout Live here on Taco Tuesday here in Del Rio, Texas. I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. We got a lot to talk about, but first I got to let you know that I got my taco going on this morning. I got my machacado egg and bean, and
I've got potato, egg, and bean with hot red and green sauce.
Man, and so that sauce is actually pretty good, nice and picoso. So I really appreciate the nice little wake up this morning. But man, we got a lot going on. Frank, you had a busy weekend. We've been busy here in Del Rio, the nation, but most of all here in Del Rio. Del Rio has actually made national news this weekend.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, man. So yesterday I was working on a project and I got one of those emergency texts. Hey, the fence down at the border on the Rio Grande lane is a hot spot right now. There's a bunch of folks who are trying to, push the gate open. They were demanding to be allowed into the country. They'd already crossed the river. They're already here illegally. But we've got the Bush sheriff fence there, and so they're actually demanding to be let into the country.
Right, I saw that video. I was going to try to cue it up, but it was amazing. I saw it last night. 300, almost 400 people were, and then I think it was amazing because the caption that I saw, and again, it's always misleading, the caption, even in local media. It seems like they said 300 plus migrants.
Yes.
Trying to enter the United States. Bro, folks, they were already here.
Yeah.
They already entered the country. They were 300 plus, almost 400 plus is the word I got. They're not migrants. They're illegal
aliens, bro.
Migrants enter legally.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of migrants that we see out here working and whether they're making an honest living, those are migrants. The ones that were pushing on the fence, yelling at officers, trying to demand to enter, right? Those are illegal aliens, folks. Or if you even want to say illegal immigrants, but migrants enter legally. So that's one thing I always try to make sure to let people know as well. The same goes for asylum seekers, Frank.
Yeah.
The media labels many of these illegal aliens as asylum seekers. Folks, they're not asylum seekers. If they were asylum seekers, they would have done it in Mexico or even Central America.
Yeah, and part of the when folks are fleeing, folks, that they say they're they need asylum. It's been the adjoining country, a safe country,
right, or
the embassy, for whatever country. I mean, you got some high profile figures down in Ecuador. What's that guy's name? Anyways, no, not Snowden. He went to Russia,
right?
But the other guy that went down to Ecuador, the embassy. So, anyways, normally, folks, you'd go to an embassy of a foreign nation to seek asylum, or you go to the adjoining country. These folks these people are traversing multiple countries,
right?
To get here,
right?
And of course, they're being shipped and flown across the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean to get here as well, man.
Yeah.
So the folks will try to say, well, hey, look, what about Geneva Convention, persecution and all this stuff? Look, there's people, they're coming in. It's a matter of convenience now. The situation bad in their countries? Undoubtedly so. I mean, this is America. It's the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We are a blessed, prosperous nation. But there's criteria for a person to seek refuge under asylum, and the vast majority of these people would not fit that criteria.
And exactly right. So what happened in reality as well, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, Frank, is that a lot of these illegal aliens that are coming across here, supposedly seeking asylum, they've been in Central America and even Mexico for months and even years. They just didn't cross overnight, folks.
Yeah.
They've been over there earning a living. They're working, making money to come over here as well, even the people from South America. So it just doesn't happen overnight. They just don't wake up and hate and say, hey, I'm going to pay $10,000 to get over here. They make it in a couple of days, in 3 or 4 days. No, when we interview them, we would ask them, we get a history of their travel. As Border Patrol agents. And by the way, if you're brand new to the program, both Frank and I are retired Border Patrol agents. I served 25 years. Frank served 30 years in the Border Patrol. We both served in the military. So we have a perspective that a lot of people don't have.
Yes.
And we kind of know how things work, in the Border Patrol. Things are always changing as well. But the reality is, when we would interview illegal aliens, we would record their travel history.
Yes.
we would ask them how much did you pay to get over here? How long did it take you? What were you doing when you entered into Central America? What were you doing when you entered into Mexico? How did you enter into Mexico? And the majority of them, you know what they would tell me, Frank? Oh, I paid the oficiales to enter into Mexico.
I remember that well. And you know, the other aspect of it, Manny, it's more ominous, folks. More ominous aspect. You know, two different things actually. You know, you got the criminal gangs that are sending their operatives into our country. You know, they already have operations over here.
Right.
You know, MS-13 and the cartels. They've got their minions, they've got their workers, they've got their operatives, they've got their hit squads in America already, folks. But so they're sending more people. They are sending their hierarchy. You know, why reign terror in a downtrodden Central American country,
right, where there's no money to be made,
where the door is open,
right.
and the leftist, the Marxists, you know, the socialists that are running the Democrat Party are saying, come on over to America. You want to talk about crime waves, folks? God preserve us, God help us, you know, as to what the future holds for us,
right.
Because their movement and their entire hierarchy over here, where it is more profitable to run their operations from the United States. And the other element, bro, is that for decades now, radical Islamists have been living in South America. Hezbollah has integrated into the population, has taken brides, you know, having children, breeding children in South America. And those folks are infiltrating as well. They're coming up north. We've been seeing it for decades.
For decades, since 9/11. Actually, even before 9/11.
And then Biden just relaxed the sanctions on Iran. Bro.
He sure did. The greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world is Iran.
Yeah, and people don't know that the likes of you know, vicious, evil gangs that reign in Central America, and the cartels in Mexico, and radical, you know, Islamists, they're coming in with this human tidal wave, and it's being aided and abetted not just by the Biden administration, bro, not just by the socialist puppet, because Biden is a puppet. There are people behind him that are really pulling his strings. He's just been propped up, folks. And we're taking into account what's transpiring in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and other states, bro. He's not our legitimate president.
No, that's what I've been saying all along since election night. I've been saying that this administration, this president administration, is an illegitimate administration. You know, I've never seen anything, and now it's all coming to light. We see what's happening in Arizona. You know, there are 74,000 votes unaccounted for over there.
Wow.
In Arizona, and you try to look it up, you try to Google it, and all the news media, all the liberal news media sites say conservatives falsifying 74,000 vote information.
Yes.
You know, but if you look at the hearings, I don't know if you've watched the hearings. I was watching a little bit of part of the hearings there in Arizona, and you know, we're going to be going back and forth a lot because this all kind of connects together.
Yes.
It's all interwoven. But they were talking about when they were subpoena voting election officials for the votes.
I'm looking for comments.
They wouldn't provide any information. They just basically told, we already give you what you need, and that's it.
Yes.
And there was no chain of custody. There has to be a chain of custody with the votes. All kinds of things is happening over there, folks, in Arizona and Georgia. And so in my mind, what did you say yesterday? A 5-year-old could see, hey, something's gone. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something is happening.
Yeah, the first grader, third grader could have seen. And so we're segueing here into the aspect that, you know, Biden's elected, you know, November, and in January, new Congress also comes in, and so they assemble. The Congress does to look at the Electoral College vote coming from the states. And at that time, Senator Cruz and 16 brave Texans. Now remember, Texas has a congressional delegation of 23 Republicans. You know, of course, they got the Democrat, you know, delegation. But anyways, 16 brave Republican Texans and Senator Cruz objected to the Electoral College votes from Arizona and Pennsylvania. But one of those Texas representatives that did not side with his fellow Texans, instead sided with socialist Nancy Pelosi, is Tony Gonzalez. CD23 congressman who last night was called out by Tucker Carlson.
Right. And Frank and I have been both calling him out since he got elected. Because I believe, to tell you the truth, Frank, I believe he got in there illegitimately as well.
Yeah, real quick before you start, because I'll lose my thought. I didn't take Prevagen this morning. There's a state rep, bro, Toth, who is pushing for a forensic audit of the vote in Texas.
Wow.
And he is looking at the top most populated counties in Texas. One of them is Bexar County.
Wow.
So there's been some hinky stuff out of Bexar County, folks. Of course, Harris and up throughout the state. But what you're talking about, something having happened with the election in CD23, Bexar County would play a pivotal role in that. And so Toth is our state rep, state senator. Get a hold of his number and encourage him, tell him to work hard to push that bill forward, because it's election integrity with a forensic audit as to what happened in November.
Because if we look at two things that Biden and Gonzalez had in common during the presidential election, Frank, Biden stayed in his basement. He didn't go anywhere to campaign. Tony Gonzalez hardly didn't even come down here to CD23.
Oh no, bro.
He didn't even really campaign down here, but somehow he gets elected. Look, I better stay on track because it's gonna get me angry. And the reason it gets me angry is because he positioned himself as a conservative, as a Trump Republican, and in reality, he's thrown Trump under the bus. He's betrayed Trump. He stabbed him in the back multiple times, and now he's utilizing. He's lying. He's lied again earlier when he said that. Because I don't know if you know this, folks, but Laughlin Air Force Base here in Del Rio is being utilized to transport illegal aliens into Middle America, places like Wisconsin, places like Florida, Louisiana, places where
Virginia.
Democrats need votes. I don't know if when I was listening to the places that they're being flown to, I'm thinking, hey, those are like Democratic,
Republican strongholds.
Well, Republican strongholds, Democratic targets.
Yes.
Where they need votes. And so it's amazing to me that they're going to these locations because Frank and I, we worked for the Border Patrol many years, and the majority of these illegal aliens that come in go to big cities so they can get jobs and just hide as well. They rarely go to these other places that they're being flown to. But Tucker Carlson called out Tony Gonzalez last night, which I thought was pretty amazing, and rightfully so, because I believe our military is being utilized wrongly, taxpayer dollars.
It's a perversity, bro.
It is. There's been no security clearance for it, from what I understand. The wing commander had been called out as well, because I saw a message from a whistleblower there at Laughlin Air Force Base saying that he admitted to them, hey, don't be taking pictures of these immigrants, of these
don't say anything about
don't say anything or to anyone. But the reality is, Frank, you made Fox News, so Tucker Carlson mentioned you as there too, and so you took a pretty good video that proved that illegal aliens are being flown out of Laughlin Air Force.
Yeah, there's folks, folks. It's easy. We're frustrated, we're angry, we're concerned, and there should be a sense of fear. Now, fear is a God-endowed, survival instinct. Of course, that is always tempered by the Spirit of God. Because God explicitly tells us, to do not be afraid, bro. We have the mind of Christ. We have, the Spirit of God dwelling within us. But there is that survival instinct. So we should be, looking at survival because our nation is under invasion, and all the stops have been pulled. And so there's patriots within these organizations. It's easy to blame the Border Patrol agent on the ground.
Right.
It's easy to blame the DPS trooper on the ground. It's easy to blame the security forces and the airmen at Laughlin that are, the AT air traffic controllers that are, giving instructions to that aircraft, bro.
Right.
But the blame always goes up, folks, through the leadership.
Yep.
Of course, Biden's up there, but here we have Abbott, here we have a congressman, here we have a base commander.
Right.
And so there are folks that are patriots, are concerned, but they cannot talk because they'll lose their job, folks.
They'll lose livelihood.
They have children. They have families. They got to put food on the table. Pay the mortgage up. Pay a car loan, whatever. And so they are getting the word out. They are crying out. They want their voice to be heard as well, Manny. And so we are their voice.
Yeah. I think, a lot of people ask me, why I retired, because I could have gone 7 more years in the Border Patrol, but I retired right when I hit 50. And one of the big reasons I retired, first, I wanted to spread the gospel. I wanted to get into full-time ministry, which, I was doing in the Border Patrol as far as the chaplaincy goes. But I also wanted to raise my voice because my voice was stifled in regards to what was happening, and agents and employees of the Border Patrol constantly telling me, "Hey, this is happening," and I had enough. So I threw my paperwork in, got out, and here we are. You know, I want to share this video that Tucker Carlson, and it's amazing because the title of the video, he's calling out Tony Gonzalez. And folks, if you voted for Tony Gonzalez, you know, I'm not casting any blames or dispersions or anything like that, but you voted for the wrong person.
He lied to your face.
Yeah, he lied. He lied, and a lot of people fell for it. You know, for me, the killer should have been. He was endorsed by Will Hurd. Will Hurd was a rhino.
Yeah.
You know, Will Hurd went against Raul Reyes. In my opinion, Raul Reyes was a better candidate.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't go back. We're here right now. But primaries are coming up, folks. You need to vote for the right candidate who is going to be a true Republican a conservative, and a Trump Republican. There's a difference now in regards
That's
to
what we're hearing. We're hearing that from blue counties, bro. They don't consider themselves Republicans. They are Trump Republicans. They believe in his America First priorities.
Right. Exactly. And so we're going to play this video real quick. We'll get a little bit more on board on what we're talking about here. But I want you to watch this video. It's pretty important. It's a few minutes long, about 3 minutes long. And then you can leave your comments, and then we'll talk about it.
The White House has been running it. The country throughout the interior.
Technical difficulties a little bit.
Yeah, let me get back to it here.
Meanwhile, I'll take a bite of taco.
Sorry about that. I don't know why it's not playing the audio. Oh,
it's a devil, bro.
No.
Yeah.
We got a tip that this was happening.
Hold on. There we go. All right. You gotta forgive me. I'm 50 years old, so 51. So technology kind of escapes me sometimes. So here we go.
Told you about a human smuggling operation the Biden White House has been running out of Laughlin Air Force Base in Texas. The goal of the operation is to resettle illegal immigrants throughout the country, throughout the interior, without the knowledge or permission of the people who live in those places, otherwise known as the public, the voters. They can't know. We got a tip that this was happening. So we called both the Pentagon and ICE, and they were forced to confirm that it is happening. The question we couldn't answer is, where are all these foreign nationals going? Where are they being flown? Well, tonight we have some indication of that. According to air traffic records, a 737 operated by a charter airline departed Laughlin Air Force Base last week. It headed to the former England Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana. Do the people who live there know? Where did it go from there? Where did all the people on the plane go? We don't have the answer to that. We've also, by the way, obtained video of a civilian plane using Laughlin Air Force Base in Texas. The footage on the screen right now was taken by a local man called Frank Lopez Jr. So it's definitely happening. We did not make it up. The question is, what are Republicans in the Congress doing to stop it? Well, as it turns out, the Republican who represents Del Rio, Texas, in the Congress, Tony Gonzalez, is the very person who petitioned ICE to use Laughlin Air Force Base in the first place to move foreign citizens to the rest of the country. We know that because he put out a press release about it on June 5th. Gonzalez asked the acting assistant secretary of the Air Force for installations, someone called Jennifer Miller, to use the runways at Laughlin Air Force Base, quote, to fly migrants to their final destination rather than releasing them in the Del Rio area. Congressman Gonzalez added this, quote, by utilizing Laughlin Air Force Base, ICE could address the high number of migrant releases and alleviate the pressure that this crisis has inflicted on border communities, end quote. So in other words, Tony Gonzalez doesn't want to deal with illegal immigrants in large numbers in his community, and that's totally understandable. Very few communities want that. They've never asked for it. No one's ever voted for this because nobody actually wants it. What's harder to understand is why Gonzalez and a lot of other members of the Republican Party aren't trying to protect the rest of the United States and stop this mass outbreak of lawlessness, an outbreak, by the way, that's about to get a lot worse very soon. A senior administration official has confirmed to Joe Simonson of the Washington Free Beacon that a new flood of illegal migrants from around the world is on the way. The official said the White House is about to suspend Title 42. That's a regulation that's been used by the CDC to block migrants from entering this country on public health grounds, like during a pandemic, for example. Turns out COVID isn't a big deal when foreigners have it and bring it to this country. It's fine, and you're a racist if you think otherwise. So they're repealing the rule. Once that happens, the administration expects an even bigger wave on our border, and then at some point in your neighborhood, because they'll be flown at your expense there. Do Republicans know this? Of course they do. Do they care? That's an open question.
And I'm sorry, he's right. He's right, Frank. That is an open question. Do Republicans care? We know one Republican that doesn't care, so-called Republican that doesn't care.
People
and that's
ask me
Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, and folks, hey, you're gonna hear us talking about Tony Gonzalez. Why? Because the only Republican on this border, 1,200 miles of border, bro, Texas with Mexico, the only Republican who ran as a conservative, I'm gonna fight Nancy and the socialist candidate, has jumped in bed with Nancy Pelosi, bro. Tony Gonzalez and Senator Cornyn, in addition to Tony, perverting our military air bases, and one quick thing, Laughlin Air Force Base was the home of the U-2 flights, bro, that discovered the Cuban Missile buildup.
That's amazing.
That's
right?
crazy, bro.
Yeah.
But anyways, Tony and Cornyn, along with Cuellar, a Democrat congressman from Laredo, and an Arizona Democrat senator, are pushing to build at least minimum four mega processing centers, bro, where they would speed through this human tidal wave. Yeah. They want to build at least four. The other thing about it is that Senator Cornyn is working with the Democrats, bro, to grant amnesty to the DACA people, bro. Yeah. He's working for amnesty. What's happening here is they're creating a new class, a new group of people that are going to come in at some point, whether it's now under Biden, because, folks, we've seen that the Democrats, when they have the opportunity, they go for the jugular, they go for the kill every single time.
Right.
And what's not to say that while Biden still has another 3.5 years to go, bro, will just totally pervert, destroy, disregard, spit on the Constitution of the United States while stepping on our national sovereignty and state sovereignty at the same time.
And can this nation sustain 3.5 more years of this presidency? I don't know, Frank. I really doubt it, because the inflation is up. It's insane. Before I forget, I called Tony Gonzalez's office a few weeks ago to talk about this Laughlin Air Force Base issue, to express my concern and also my disapproval of utilizing our tax dollars and our military to fly illegal aliens, invaders, folks, because the reason I use invaders is because we really do not know who's coming across. All Border Patrol can do is write down responses to their sworn statements, the answers that they give, why they're coming over here. The majority of them are to look for work. But in reality, many have criminal backgrounds, many are sex offenders, many have military backgrounds that we don't know about, and so we're losing track of them. And so it's upsetting. So when I called Tony Gonzalez's office, their office expressed to me, and these were their words, it was the Border Patrol's idea. And I said, ma'am, Tony Gonzalez has to petition in order for this to happen. So if it's not his idea, if he's disapproving of it, then it shouldn't happen. But he needs to petition, and that's exactly what Tucker Carlson said.
Bro, that's like the Border Patrol is looking at it from their angle. The aspect of thousands of people walking the streets of Del Rio. That's a whole other segment. But Congressman Tony Gonzalez could have said no, Border Patrol.
Yeah, he could have said no.
Let us. And it would have been, very, very, intrusive and bothersome, annoying, dangerous for Del Rio, our infrastructure, our local tax base, bro. But what Tony Gonzalez at that point should have said, no. I'm not going to push him into the heartland of America. Let the outcry build up, especially as a Republican, bro, in these Democrat-controlled counties who have wanted. They're Democrats. Yep. They're not leaving the party.
Right. And we see what's going to happen. But Biden right now, and the Democrats are trying to destroy the suburbs of those areas that are, by trying to build housing that they're probably going to house illegal immigrants or illegal aliens once they reach that point of destination.
And the point I'm trying to make, bro, is that Gonzalez could have said no.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. But instead he's pushing for fast tracking mega processing centers. He's using our military air bases, to fly these people into the country. His cohorts, his fellow Rhino Republicans are working with the Democrats on amnesty. And Tony Gonzalez himself, you hear, during the primary, I always said, we'd warn people, listen to the words, listen to his dog whistles, listen to his code talk. And he was always talking about immigration reform.
Yeah.
Amnesty. That's what that is. It's amnesty, open borders. The guy, I remember, folks, his family was heavily involved with LULAC, the Open Borders Racist Anti-America group. That's what they are.
Yeah.
And so they were heavily involved with them. He was supported by LULAC. He worked with LULAC. He hung out with them. He spent good time with LULAC. And then also, he was endorsed by the Democrats. He had a group, Democrats for Tony Gonzalez that formed, and people were like, hey, look, it's crossing the aisle. Folks, there was one thing that cannot be lost on you, that the Democrat Party, controlled by the socialists, is not interested in working with Republicans. They are only interested in destroying this country, bro.
See, and the thing is that President Trump saw that.
Yeah.
He saw that the Democratic Party was not willing to work across the aisle.
Yeah.
And it was proven. I remember when he was giving his State of the Union address, and Pelosi stood up and tore up, the speeches and whatnot. It proved. But anyway, so how do we stop this? Tony Gonzalez could have said, you know what, no, Laughlin, we're not going to do this. And then he could have pointed out, well, you know what, we have tons of law enforcement. There are tons of law enforcement down here in Del Rio right now. They've set up tents on the fairgrounds. They're everywhere right now. And so how could we stop this? Governor Abbott has enough law enforcement down here right now to choke a commerce, Mexican commerce, and to shut down, and so Mexico can shut down their borders. And we've talked about this over and over again, and I'm going to keep driving the point home that if we look and we target Mexico's commerce, they will start enforcing their own immigration laws. All these trucks that are coming through at the port of entry, these hundreds of troopers that are here, I'm talking hundreds, they're everywhere. Yeah. All they have to do is position themselves right there at the POE, right there at the ports of entry, both here and in Maverick County, Eagle Pass, and inspect every truck that comes out. Because I think 9 out of 10 of these vehicles that come out from Mexico they shouldn't be on the roads anyway.
Yeah, there's people will talk about the what I've heard lately, folks, is this constitutional argument. I've had some folks, I've got a PhD Brainiac degree in political science, government, whatever. Existential times when your very survival, your very existence is at stake.
Yeah.
You clear the board, bro.
Right.
You do what needs to be done, and times like this require extraordinary, exceptional, unique, bold actions.
Right.
And so it's ironic that these people want to throw the Constitution up there and use that as an argument for Abbott to not constrict traffic from Mexico, to get them, to yanking the leash of Mexico, to crack down the cartels. It's ironic that they use a constitutional argument when Joe Biden himself has freaking swept up the floor with the Constitution.
Yeah.
They lose sight. Of that particular aspect. So exceptional times, extraordinary times, freedom-threatening times require that Governor Abbott immediately redeploy those DPS troopers, bro.
Right.
Get them up and down this port. We have over 25 ports of entry. Restrict that traffic. And I wouldn't even send teams of DPS troopers, bro. I'd get 2 or 3 and just backlog per port, backlog that traffic for miles and miles and miles into Mexico.
And then the trucks that make it past, you turn them back around, send them right back.
Yep.
Folks, it works. Donald Trump, he focused and he targeted Mexico's commerce, their economy. They all of a sudden overnight they started enforcing the immigration laws. Folks, both Frank and I saw it when we worked on the Border Patrol. Apprehensions, encounters, crossings went down significantly overnight within about a 24 to 48 hour period. 70 to 80%. It works, folks.
And that was Trump, bro. That was Trump. So, folks are talking about, well, it's a Biden problem. It's a federal. Look, folks. They are trampling on Texas sovereignty. They are crossing our front door. They're breaking into our house. Texas is our house.
Right.
And at that time, Governor Abbott, our representative, must take bold, decisive action. He needs to get out of his comfort zone. He needs to stop thinking about the next election and surviving this election, which I doubt he's going to survive, bro. He needs to think into the future of Texas, into the future of our children. See, him and the elites, bro, they're squared away.
Yeah.
They probably got some freaking island somewhere they're gonna all go live on, bro. But the rest of us are gonna have to live with the consequences of their decisions. And so Abbott is either gonna go down as a true Texas champion or one of the biggest freaking cowards we ever had in the state of Texas. And other states are going to suffer because of this one particular dynamic, folks, that this is a states' right issue. Yes, we are the United States of America, but each individual state did not forfeit, did not give up its own individual sovereignty. We still have that.
And Texas has a reputation.
Yes.
You know, we have a reputation. People looked at Texas. We're the Lone Star State. I love Texas. I wasn't born here, but as the saying goes, I got here as fast as I could. Reason being is because, you know, I'm originally from the state of New Mexico. I just got back from there this weekend, and I had to come back, Frank. I missed Texas within a matter of hours because of all the restrictions that are down there.
The air smells.
Yeah, the air's better.
Free.
It's freedom and brisket. You know what I mean? So and tacos. Yeah, tacos. But you know, when we look at Texas, you know, look at last week, RGV sector, Rio Grande Valley sector, 1 week, 13,500 illegal aliens in 1 week, and those are the ones that are wanting to get apprehended. Last week here in Del Rio sector alone, over 6,000 illegal aliens made entry. Those are the ones that are wanting to get caught. Folks, we brought up the stats last week on our program that for one alien that is caught, 5 to 10 get away. So those are called gotaways in Border Patrol reports. And the ones that are getting away are the ages 20 to 35. We're understanding males that are coming across carrying backpacks, military-age males that are coming across that are getting away. They see them on their cameras. Border Patrol sees them on their cameras. We see them on their drones. Biden keeps saying, well, we have technology. We have ways of detecting. Yeah, you have ways of detecting them and seeing, but nobody can get to them because there's nobody there. Border Patrol is still busy processing. So that brings up my next point. All the law enforcement that is down here, look, I love you guys. I'm prior law enforcement. My family's law enforcement. I love law enforcement. I back law enforcement. I support law enforcement. However, what's happening, folks, is the law enforcement, in my opinion, what they're doing down here on the border is basically just rounding people up for processing to further their entry. And this is one of the reasons why with Tony Gonzalez, we used to have a charge that wasn't really enforced too much, and I think it should have been, was the in furtherance of illegal immigration. It's an 8 USC code, and it's a crime. We would arrest ranchers, we would arrest taxi drivers, companies, owners of companies that were furthering illegal immigration. I believe, in my opinion, this administration is doing the same thing. Tony Gonzalez is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for a lot of these law enforcement officers here, Frank, because they're rounding everybody up for Border Patrol to process just so they can be released.
It's more people, exponentially. The more people you have getting caught, the more people you have getting released. It's physics, bro. It's just simple, mathematic, arithmetic, and so, that's why I am hammering on Abbott, bro, because leaders are appointed, elected for such a time as this. And folks would say, hey, look, well, God appoints our authorities. Yes. But sometimes God allowed for evil kings, for bad people to rule over their nation so that people could see, so that people could learn and they could turn towards God. And of course, we should be praying for our leaders. We should be praying for each other, for the men and women out there, and even for these people, bro, because they are facing, hardship. They are dying. They're being exploited, raped. Little boys and girls are being, just ravaged. Ravaged.
And the sad part is a lot of them are being exploited by our own government now. Being utilized as political tools. I was trying to pull up the video. I can't do it right now. But because I wanted to make the point that a lot of people are saying that, well, we have a lot of this law enforcement down here in order to not ease the flow, but to stop the flow of illegal immigration. Folks, it's increased. Yesterday here in Del Rio, there was 400 plus illegal aliens trying to make entry into the
pushing on the gate,
where officers were having to yell at them to stay back. It was ridiculous.
And after a while, it got controlled to where and even then, I went out there after the fact, and there was a bunch of officers just hanging around. Vehicles just all running, engines just all running, bro, gas and massive taxpayer funds are being used for this operation, and it's so mismanaged, bro. if Governor Abbott were to take the simple step of just strangling, not totally stopping. People are saying, well, he can't stop trade. It's a constitutional treaty violation. Hey, slow it down to a trickle. Hey, I'm not stopping it. I'm controlling the flow.
Right.
And if it's one truck gets across in 1 hour, so be it.
So be it.
The other thing that we've been advocating for, folks, and this is, it's going to be controversial. It's going to lead to confrontation and conflict. But see, that's all that these politicians know. It's either money in their pockets or pressure. And so Governor Abbott needs to exercise his authority as the governor of the state, his oversight of the Texas Department of Transportation, his oversight of our highways, and stop the traffic, the transportation of these illegal alien invaders on our highways, bro. And so how does he do that? Very simple, bro. They can't move. They physically can't move. And so you inspect these buses. Before I forget, Governor Abbott said he was going to shut down shelters in Texas to not allow these non-government operations, organizations to continue operating. But he needs to shut down this traffic, slow it down the same way, or even better, just blockade it, bro.
Yeah.
Just bring in heavy equipment, Department of Transportation, tractors, trailers, blockade the processing centers. It's controversial. It's confrontational. You're not using armed state personnel.
Right.
You're bringing in equipment.
Yeah.
And so it is bold.
Right.
It is, but that's what it's gonna take, bro.
Right.
Let the pressure build up at the federal facilities.
I agree, because let's look at the hypocrisy. Last week, Cubans in Cuba were protesting against communism.
Yeah.
And what did Mayorkas stand up and say?
God.
Don't come, right? Do not come to the United States, right? People that are fleeing, waving the American flag, they're fleeing communism, socialism,
dictators and tyrants,
right? And I don't know if you've seen the videos of news reporters being taken away on live TV simply for disagreeing with the government and trying to speak out. And then we have Mayorkas, who's in charge of DHS, hypocritically saying to these Cubans that are wanting to flee communism, don't come.
Yeah, and I believe he's a Cuban descent himself, bro.
Right? Yeah. And yet we have all these open borders here on our southern border. All these people that are coming through that are not, folks. They're not fleeing. They're not. A lot of them are not fleeing communism or socialism. Some from Venezuela, they're leaving socialism. But the ones from Venezuela, the majority of them that are coming across from Venezuela are the well-to-do, the ones who are able to afford to come over here. The pobres, the poor ones, they're still
and let's not forget that the United States has for decades now been dumping billions of taxpayer dollars into these third world nations, bro. But they're corrupt, they're misspent. I mean, there's so much misusage of our funds, and so if Mayorkas can say no to Cubans, you can't come into our country. Governor Abbott can say no to these invaders and say, you're not coming into my state.
Right.
This is a federal problem, and so, people say, well, what's that going to do? It's going to create pressure on Biden. It's going to create, and it's going to be confrontational. Some people will say, hey, they're going to come down and arrest Abbott. Give me a break. That's not going to happen. There's going to be pressure, and there's going to be, publicity, but it needs to rise to a level where the heat is rising, bro.
Right.
Because that's all they know. It's either money or pressure.
Right.
Bold, decisive, radical, perhaps, but don't forget this one key principle, people. Our nation, our freedom, our future is at stake. They're pushing from many different angles. The whole COVID vaccine thing. And one thing before I forget, what came to light this past week, that the Biden administration, and this was Gene Psaki, the press secretary, who admitted that they're reaching out to big tech, corporations, the social media corporations, to censor, free speech in this country.
Yeah.
That's what they're pushing for. And surprisingly, this will show you, people, how lockstep our Congressman Tony Gonzalez is with the socialists, with Nancy Pelosi, with his LULAC puppet masters, and with the Biden administration himself. At the same time that the Biden administration is trying to restrain freedom of information, First Amendment speech, what is the constituent liaison in Del Rio, Texas, doing, bro? This came to light. Michelle Fagan, Tony Gonzalez, a constituent liaison, was reaching out to administrators for Facebook groups, bro, and as a staff member for a sitting congressman, telling them you're spreading misinformation, you're not telling the truth. What is that, bro? That is using a political position, the congressional staff position, to intimidate.
Yeah.
You know, that's suppressive, oppressive.
Right.
You know, those are suppressive, oppressive actions meant to intimidate and ultimately to silence your First Amendment speech, bro. Yeah. That's a terrible thing. Someone say, "Oh, Frank, now you're overreaching." No, folks. What cannot be lost on you people is that government officials, the moment they get into power, they forget that they are the slaves, they are the workers, they are the employees for we the people.
Right.
And they must always be reminded of that. But what happens is arrogance comes in, pride and greed for power and prestige and position and profit comes into play.
And let's not forget, we mentioned before in our first episode, I'm I'm a rabbi, I'm an ordained rabbi, and Frank's an ordained minister. We believe in God. I believe, and I'm a Messianic Jew, so I believe that in Yeshua, I believe that He is going to return, and I believe what the Scriptures say, that our battles are not against flesh and blood.
Yes.
Right. So there's a very, very, it's very understanding that there is a spiritual dynamic to all this, a demonic dynamic to all this as well. Yes. This influence that Rav Shul, the Apostle Paul, expressed that there is the satanic demonic influence that is over this world, in this world right now, that is blinding the eyes of many people. So we understand that, we get that. Yes. But what I also understand is that, and what I also get is that, yes, I understand and I believe that Messiah is coming back. However, we can't fall into the idea of escapism, remaining silent, fleeing, to the hills and for going, standing up for our rights because the Messiah is returning. He's going to return, so all this is going to go away. We understand that, folks, but right now we have children to bring up. We have other people that need to hear the gospel. We have other people that need to understand freedom, that are fighting for freedom, and so we must make our voices heard, folks. And so and praise the Lord, right now we have this avenue, this medium to do this in. We've on our second episode, we already got censored once or twice on trying to post videos. Some other conservative pages have been removed.
Shut down.
Yeah, been shut down. And censored. And so, folks, this is a reality. This is happening in our country. And what's amazing to me, Frank, is that a lot of these people that are playing a part, being used as puppets, when everything hits the fan, they're going to be the first ones removed. They're going to be the first ones taken out of the picture.
Yeah, because they're the most compliant.
Right.
They're the easiest target. Folks, you need to be doing your research. They're pushing. We had spoken about Governor Nancy Pelosi wanting to send Capitol Police to Florida and California. They're already down there, bro. So the federal government is reaching out and sending federal officers into the state's domain, into the sovereign states. And her aim is to go after threats against Congress.
Yeah.
And so we cannot lose sight of that, folks. That it is an epic good versus evil, light versus darkness battle here, and the people on the chessboard, the pieces on the chessboard are human beings, and it's governments, and it's systems of this world.
Right.
And so that's why we are called to be salt and light, and we're called to put on the armor of light, because it is a spiritual battle. But at the same time, God has given us ability. He's given us free will. He's given us that innate desire to be free and to live.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, yes, there are authorities in place, and God commands us to pray for those authorities. But there comes a time when we must rise up against tyranny. We must speak out against tyranny. Right. That's what Jesus did, man. Right. Well, he came to speak against the religious, tyrannical leaders.
He sure did. And one of my favorite parts of scriptures when King David rose up and when he went and took on Goliath, and the way it's translated in some scriptures is that he said, "Is there not a cause?" When he spoke to to King Saul. He said, "Is there not a cause?" You know, and he even, and then King Saul even when he gave him his armor, it didn't fit, and he took it off, and he said, you know, when the lions come, you know, I fight them. When bears come, I fight them. You know, God has given us this innate desire to fight for what's right, right, to stand up against tyranny, to stand up for freedom. You know, King David was God's anointed, right? He was God's anointed king. He had the Spirit of God in him, but yet he still went out there, and he didn't try to reason with Goliath, right? He didn't try to reason with the Philistines.
The dude was going to bite his head off.
He told him, bring it on, basically. Is what he, you know, is basically what he said. He says, you know, I've struck down this, I'll strike you down as well. You know, but Frank, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying go over there right now and strike down people. That's not what I'm saying. But right now we have mediums to vote. We have mediums to speak our mind. But we need to stand up and make our voices heard. You know, and we see these restrictions coming, or we see these censorships coming. Frank, you had an interesting experience over the weekend, right?
Oh, yeah.
We have a whole bunch of law enforcement here in Del Rio at a tent city there at the fairgrounds, which, people, by the way, is public access.
Yes.
You know, Frank, you went over there.
And so look, folks, and this is not a slam on law enforcement. It's not a law enforcement. You know, you got 50 combined years here. Anyways, I'm down there filming, exercising my First Amendment right, bro. As a citizen journalist, First Amendment, freedom of the press. You don't need a press pass from any one central location, because there is not one central entity that issues press passes. You might get it from, you know, a news outlet,
right?
But at the end of the day, the Constitution applies to everyone, and we are citizen journalists. Freedom of press, freedom of assembly, bro. Freedom of speech, and of course, freedom to gather and to address our grievances with our governing officials. So I went down there to see what's going on, because people were concerned. Not everybody had seen the county judge's video. There was a bunch of rumors flying around that it was an alien holding facility, a illegal alien holding facility, but it was an overflow for National Guard and DPS. And so I'm down there, and there were some folks that I saw them looking, and I figured they were the bosses in charge. They look bossy, you know. Anyways, what do they do, bro? Did they come and talk to me, you know, man to man, Texan to Texan, you know, hombre to hombre, you know, face to face? No, they didn't. What was the first thing they did? They called armed people to come and confront me. They called people who are legally authorized to use force to escalate from verbal, you know, dialogue, and escalate all the way up to deadly force. That is what the government officials did, bro. Instead of approaching me, they called law enforcement. They came and spoke with me. Now, if I'm not a person that is well versed in my First Amendment rights, bro, it's very easy to intimidate, and that is the process. Part of the process, folks. They seek to intimidate. They seek to control. That's what tyrannical government, people with tyrannical bent, a tyrannical drive, that don't know how to properly use and exercise their authority, that is what they will do. They will seek to control you, to subjugate you, and they will intimidate, coerce, and when necessary, take your very life, bro. And so what was grievous about this is that they didn't speak to me. They bring two armed people to confront, to deal with me, a man in shorts and flip-flops, you know, with a camera, and that was the sole offense, is that I'm holding a camera and I'm pointing it. You must always film the police. You must always film your government officials. It's not that it's confrontational with them. If they perceive it that way, that's where you need to know your rights. But you always have to film them, bro. They are being paid by your tax dollars. They work for you, even though they are, you know, the officers, the officials appointed as peacekeepers. They still work for us, the taxpaying citizens.
And we're not saying to go over there and
confront
and be confrontational. When I was in law enforcement, I didn't mind people filming me, but I wasn't doing any, you know,
I posed.
You know, I didn't mind. Sometimes I take off my name tag, you know, but there's other situations because of doing undercover work. But the reality is that you know, folks, we have constitutional rights. We have freedom of the press. Even as a citizen journalist, you have every right. You know, and now if there's signs posted, this and that, be respectful. When I keep your distance, we're not saying to go in there and just, you know, make your, you know, push your way in there, but be respectful towards law enforcement. But you have to understand too that, you know, Frank was going over there to kind of support what was happening, to kind of let people know, hey, this is law enforcement here, not illegal immigrants. He was confronted by law enforcement. You know, we got about 5 minutes here before we close up. We have some pretty good news that may be coming up in 2024. I read an article last night that Trump may be running in 2024. You know, folks, of course, I voted for Trump. I'm a Trump. I kind of consider myself a Trump Republican now because of the America First,
Yes.
movement that he has. We got a few people running for governor that have some. Texas state governor has some pretty good ideas. Prather, right?
Yes.
Huff Hines and Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, I believe, is going to be in town.
Yeah, he'll be here Thursday at Rudy's at 11 a.m. Thursday, Rudy's, 11 a.m. Come by, speak with the Colonel. Let's see what he has to say. Let's hear what he has to say. Ask him questions, people. You have to ask your elected officials. Hold them all accountable. Mark that moment in time when you ask them a specific question and hold them accountable to that. That's what you do with all your candidates.
Yep. And I've, in my experience with Lieutenant Colonel West, I've rarely ever seen him say, "Hey, don't ask me that," or you'd have,
he'll answer.
Yeah,
That's what I love about candidates. That was one of my big sticking points with Tony Gonzalez. He ran. Tucked tail and ran.
Yeah.
He never wanted to speak, and he still doesn't want to speak to the citizens of Valverde County. He doesn't want to talk to the Republican Party of Valverde County. The other event we got coming up, folks, Saturday the 31st in Hondo, Texas. The big maze is out there. There's a big barn right there at that maze, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. There's going to be a big rally out there. So if you're headed to San Antonio, maybe just swing on by, stop by and visit with some of your fellow conservatives from throughout the region. That'll be at the Maze, 9 a.m. In Hondo on the 31st, Saturday. And then the other thing is that today there are a bunch of your fellow Texans. Hey, Dave. Hey, Kim. Raul. They're all headed to Austin, bro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a mock committee meetings going on. There's legislators up there that want to hear from Texans. Sheena Rodriguez, Latinos for America First, and other groups, Texans for Closing the Border, Texans for Truth, on the border, have all been, creating awareness about what's taking place, because the rest of America, surprisingly, bro, it's not being reported out there, and it's taking citizen journalism through Facebook, through emails, texts, phone calls, letting people know what's taking place. And so a bunch of folks are headed to Texas, to the Austin Capitol, and they're going to be meeting with their legislators up there, and just go out there, be peaceful, but be firm, stand for your rights.
Yeah, I just got a comment here that Kristen Riojas, she says, "I'm on my way to Austin right now."
Awesome.
Good for you. Good for you.
Safe travels.
Yeah, safe travels. I encourage other citizens, go over there, help. I think they invited a whole bunch of people, right? If you're,
yes, it was on Facebook.
Yeah, if you're a citizen and you care about your state, you care about your nation, go out there, make your voice heard. Again, please be respectful.
Yes.
Please abide by the laws, that are in place. They're for our protection. Please respect law enforcement. But also make your voice heard.
Yes.
Make your voice heard. It's important, folks. Frank and I are going to continue driving home this border crisis. The things that representatives like Tony Gonzalez are doing that are not doing. The importance of voting, the importance of
Governor Abbott.
Governor Abbott, the things that he's not doing as well, the things that he could be doing. Reason being, because even here locally, Frank, people have turned off their ears. They've been ignoring the crisis. It's happening right in our backyard, folks.
Yeah.
We can't ignore this problem any longer.
And I'll tell you why we can't ignore it, folks. Because the reason they're coming here is because this is America.
This is America.
This is a shining beacon of freedom, of individualism, of opportunity. And this is the aspect, though, folks, that if our country is flooded and the socialist Marxists that control the Democrat Party have their way, this huge wave of people who are not getting COVID, vaccines and all that stuff, they are part of a huge demographic change to alter the face of America forever. And so once America ceases being that beacon of freedom and light, it stops being.
Right.
It stops existing.
Right. Right.
And so that's why the border invasion is critical. That's why the budget and the national debt and health care and social issues, social programs, folks, priority is this border invasion because they are looking to change the face of the electorate and control elections forever.
Forever,
bro.
Forever. And folks, this is America. Like you said, Frank, this is America. I love America. I've served my country for more than 30 years. I've served my country, and I continue to serve my country. Even through this, to help get educate people on what's happening in our nation. Folks, do not turn a blind eye to what is happening. It's important that you stand up to make your voice heard. This socialist agenda, this communist agenda, folks, is hitting it's on our shores. We have people in office, and I'm not going to mention names because I'm tired of giving them the light, any limelight. But the reality is we have people in leadership positions in the highest offices of government, folks, that are wanting to implement socialism, wanting to implement communism, to take your rights and my rights away.
Yeah, and so as we close out, I'm going to leave you the famous word of a renowned philosopher, bro, who faced the aspect of exceptionalism, being an exceptional place, being a special person. This person was told, what he said was, when everyone's special, because they're trying to turn America into every other country. So when America stops being special, everybody's.
That's right.
When everybody's special, America stops being special. And that philosopher was Dash on The Incredibles, bro. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember? He says, when everyone's special, no one's special.
Yeah.
So anyways, folks, America's exceptional for a reason. We got to keep it that way. We have to keep it that way.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Talk About It Live with Frank and Manny. God willing, we'll be here next week with more to talk about on Taco Tuesday, 8 a.m. here on Facebook, YouTube. You can also get the audio. We'll be able to get the audio portion later on this evening, tomorrow morning on Spotify, as well, Podbean and Amazon Music, on a few other things as well. We're on YouTube as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube.
We on Rumble yet?
Yes, we're on Rumble as well.
What about BitChute?
No, not yet. Yeah. And so, and also we're moving over to Getter as well. And so we're hoping to get on some more platforms. But folks, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless Texas.